Now, recently I found that I've had to ask this question a great many times. And that question is, now, are you looking at finding the truth, or are we looking for justice? Now, we have a reasonably mature justice system in Australia. And you would think that the justice system is all about finding out the truth, what exactly happened. But this is not quite so. Now, I know someone who spent 2 weeks on jury duty, on a jury, and this is a criminal case. And as with all criminal cases, you are innocent until you are proven guilty beyond all doubt. And the beyond all doubt thing is what causes the problem with justice. Now, we do a lot of roof inspections. Now, the bulk of our roof inspections are done from a scientific basis. That is, we look at a problem and then we come up with a proposed solution. In scientific terms, that's a prognosis. We think this is the situation and this is what's caused it, and this is how we fix it. So we put forward a solution and we put it to the test. And if the test passes, then scientifically we have proved that scientific fact until something comes along and disproves it. So very simply, our clients have a roof leak. We go and have a look at it and we think it's X, Y, and Z. And we come up with a proposal and a price to actually do the repair so that the leak doesn't happen again. Now, we happen to stand on our science and say that if the leak does happen again, then we have proven ourselves wrong and we've got to come up with a different analysis of the problem and come up with another scientific prognosis. Then we go and try that, and we try and try and try again until we've come up with a positive result. And that is to prove that our final analysis is in fact correct. It is the truth. So the majority of our roof inspections go this particular way. We're there to find out the truth of the problem and doing it via a scientific method. But every now and then we get a request to do a roof inspection and just to come up with a roof report. And whenever we get that sort of request, our automatic reaction is to say no. Why? Now, what's the difference between a roof inspection that ends up with a quote and a roof inspection that ends up with a roof report? Well, I would say that the quote is a search for the truth, and a roof report is a search for justice. And our job here at the Roofing Portal is not to provide justice, it's to look for the truth. Now, we were questioned the other day on why we don't provide roof reports. And I guess our main defense to this question is that we don't know how to price a roof report. Now, we see very many building inspection reports and roof reports come in our direction because we go in to solve a lot of problems. And there's been many reports done before we actually arrived on the scene. So it's interesting from our point of view to see what is actually in the reports. And most of these reports aren't very expensive. So we always take these reports with a grain of salt. So the reports are only as good as the inspector and how much effort he's put into it. And the amount of effort is associated with the price of the report, obviously. And based on all the reports that's come across our desk, we would say that the majority of them aren't really comprehensive. I mean, comprehensive when it comes to the roofing section of the report, because we don't know about the other aspects of the building mainly. We only deal with roofs. So anything to do with roofs, we'll look at that section of the report, and most of it is far from comprehensive. So if you wanted a really comprehensive roof report, you would have to go and engage the expert and be able to afford the ultimate price for a report that comes from a specialist and is comprehensive. And not only that, that report has to stand up in court, because if you're looking for a roof report, the implication is that you are going to find some sort of justice using the report. And a report that is not comprehensive is not a weapon that you should use in a court of law. And the reason why we responded that we don't know how much to charge for an expert roof report is that we don't know exactly what's involved in having to justify our report in front of other people, which may take a lot of time and a lot of effort. And this is something that we really don't want to get involved in. We are not here for justice. We're here for the scientific truth. So what we want to do is we're going to look at the problem, and then scientifically we'll say, this is what we think has caused it, and this is what can be done to fix it. And if it doesn't work, then the first scientific prognosis is incorrect. We come up with another one, and we keep going, and we keep iterating, they call, until we come up with a solution that actually works, and that then proves that that is the truth. And a lot of people talk about a subjective truth and an objective truth. And that's kind of what we are talking about. Now, one example I saw the other day was a building report that came through and said that the roof battens were suffering from some sort of a wood decay. I think they call it wood delignation or something. And it's what we term as fretting. We've got roof tiles that fret, which means that the roof tiles tend to powder. And with timber battens, something similar happens. The outer surface of the battens turns into really fluffy, hairy powder. And the report said that this was quite extensive, and therefore all the battens had to be taken out and removed and replaced. Quite an extensive job. So based on this report, most of the roofers will go, the report says replace battens. So if we were to look at this roof and come up with a solution, then we would have to replace the whole roof because we need to replace the battens. Now, the fact that the battens were fretting is indeed true, but the degree of fretting and the need for replacement, that part I think is subjective. It's the subjective truth. And based on this subjective truth, the solution is to replace everything. But what if we look at the objective truth? How do we go about doing this? Well, it's quite easy, because the reason for a roof batten is to carry the load of the tile and any other load on top of the tile. So from an engineering point of view, that roof batten has got to be a certain size, and the grade of timber has got to be a certain grade. And based on that, you work out the strength of the batten, and you go, this size battens will be able to sustain the load. And to further go down the scientific path, what you do is, in theory, this is what you need to carry the load. And in practice, what you do is, you get that size batten, put a tile on top, and put a certain force on top of the tile. And if the batten is able to withstand that load, then it passes. So ultimately, the objective truth is you go up on the roof and you jump up and down on the roof tiles. If it carries your load, then the roof battens are strong enough. Now, obviously, there are a lot of things to be taken into consideration, but the basis of the design of a roof batten is based on physical requirements, and there's safety factors involved. So with this in mind, what's the best way to approach this problem with the fretting battens? Well, besides from jumping up and down on the roof and not seeing anything break, the best way to visually arrive at a fairly good conclusion is what we did here. All we had to do was remove the fretting, and if you brush all the fretting away, what you are left with is the solid timber batten that's underneath. So all the fretting and the hairiness that surround the batten is all there to hide what's actually deep inside. So if you remove what's hiding the actual timber batten, you'll find that the timber batten is nice and solid. And is no risk of structural failure. So the truth behind the fretting battens in this particular roof is that there's really no need to replace the fretting battens. Now, as an aside, there were other really critical issues structurally with the roof that wasn't picked up by the building report. And these issues were a lot more important than just the fretting battens. And this is what we find with the majority of the reports we get. Most of it's fairly generic, and it's attacking the problem with the shotgun approach and try to hit everything, whereas we look at it from the point of view of being purely scientific. The sniper approach is what we use. We go, what exactly is the problem? We think this is the solution, and we will go about proving that we are right. And if we prove that we are incorrect, scientifically, that's good, because we come up with another prognosis and try to prove that again until we arrive finally at the last solution that is finally proven to work. So ultimately, it's the truth that makes things work for us, whilst justice is very subjective to us. And it's not something that we are really qualified to provide.